In the golden glow of a June afternoon, the sprawling forecourt of Buckingham Palace hums with the weight of ceremony and tradition. The sun bathes the honey-colored stones in warmth, casting long shadows from the iconic gates where the Union Jack flutters proudly. Diplomats from across the globe, their suits crisp and medals gleaming, stand in reverent silence, their eyes fixed on the precise movements of the royal guard. The air carries the faint chirping of birds from the palace gardens, the rhythmic crunch of boots on gravel, and the soft rustle of ceremonial uniforms. It is June 14th. A day of international unity, a formal parade to honor alliances old and new. But in this moment, a single act of defiance, a quiet refusal by a young female guard will send shockwaves through the gathered dignitaries, leaving them stunned and forever changed. Emily Clark, a royal guard with a heart of steel, will stand her ground, not for pride, but for principle, and her story will echo as a testament to honor, duty, and the unyielding spirit of a nation. If you were in her place, faced with the weight of diplomatic pressure, would you bend to expectation or hold fast to what you know is right? The scene is one of timeless grandeur. Buckingham Palace, with its centuries of history etched into every stone, stands as a symbol of Britain's enduring legacy. The parade is a carefully choreographed affair, a ballet of scarlet tunics and towering bearskin hats, where every step, every salute is a nod to tradition. Diplomats from a dozen nations, France, Japan, Canada, and a prominent delegation from an Eastern European country known for its rigid military customs, line the forecourt. Their faces a mix of curiosity and respect. The Eastern European delegation, led by General Victor Moroz, is particularly striking. Their uniforms heavy with gold braid, their posture rigid with the pride of a nation that values martial honor above all. The air is alive with anticipation, the scent of polished leather and blooming roses mingling with the faint hum of London beyond the gates. Tourists peer through the iron railings, their cameras flashing, but the focus is on the guards, whose discipline is the heartbeat of the ceremony. At the center of this moment is Emily Clark, a 29-year-old royal guard whose presence belies her youth. Her face, framed by the brim of her bearskin hat, is a study in resolve, high cheekbones, a firm jaw, and hazel eyes that burn with quiet intensity. Her scarlet tunic is pristine, her boots polished to a mirror shine, her rifle held with the precision of someone who understands its weight, both literal and symbolic. Before joining the Guard, Emily was a history teacher, a passion for military protocol and the rituals of the crown shaping her decision to serve. She spent years studying the intricacies of ceremonial law, memorizing the rules that govern the Guard's every action. To her, this role is not just duty, but devotion, a chance to embody the principles she has always revered. Emily is more than a soldier. She is a guardian of tradition, a living testament to the idea that honor cannot be coerced. No matter the pressure, the parade unfolds with flawless precision. The band plays a stirring march, the notes soaring over the crowd. As the guards execute their drills with mechanical grace, the diplomats watch, some nodding in approval, others whispering about the spectacle. General Moroz, a towering figure with a chest full of medals, stands at the forefront of his delegation. At 62, he is a veteran of countless campaigns, his reputation built on discipline and an unwavering belief in military hierarchy. His country's traditions demand elaborate gestures of respect, salutes, bows, the raising of hats, each one a symbol of submission to authority. Moroz, accustomed to such deference, carries himself with the assurance of a man who expects the world to bend to his will. His delegation, a mix of stern-faced officers and aides, mirrors his demeanor, their eyes scanning the British Guards with a mix of admiration and scrutiny. As the parade reaches its midpoint, the tension begins to build. The protocol calls for a moment of recognition, where visiting dignitaries are acknowledged by the Guard's commanding officer. But Moroz, perhaps misinterpreting the ceremony, or driven by his own cultural expectations, steps forward, his boots striking the gravel with deliberate force. He approaches Emily, who stands at her post near the palace gates, her gaze fixed on the horizon, her body as still as stone, in a voice heavy with authority, thickened by his native accent. Moros gestures sharply and commands, "Guard, salute me with your hat. Show respect." The words, though spoken in English, carry the weight of an order, a demand rooted in his nation's traditions, where such a gesture is a sign of deference to a superior. The crowd falls silent, the band's music fading into the background. Diplomats turn, their faces tightening, sensing the breach of protocol. The tourists, sensing drama, raise their phones, their murmurs. A low hum. Emily remains motionless, her eyes unblinking, her posture unbroken. According to the strict rules of the Royal Guard, a salute with a hat, a ceremonial gesture of profound respect, is reserved exclusively for members of the British royal family or those explicitly designated by royal command. To perform it for a foreign officer, no matter their rank, would be a violation of over 350 years of tradition, a betrayal of the very principles Emily has sworn to uphold. Her heart pounds, the weight of the moment pressing against her, but her training holds firm. She does not move, does not speak, does not yield. Moro's face darkens, his jaw tightening. He repeats the command, louder this time, his voice echoing across the forecourt. "Salute-me. Guard, do you not understand respect?" The words are a challenge, a test of wills, and the tension in the air thickens. The Eastern European delegation shifts uncomfortably, some whispering, others staring at Emily with a mix of confusion and indignation. The British officers, standing nearby, exchange glances, their faces betraying nothing but their minds racing. The diplomats, accustomed to smoothing over such moments, hold their breath, aware that a single misstep could escalate into a diplomatic incident. A French attaché adjusts his cufflinks. A Japanese ambassador clutches her program, and a Canadian general leans forward, his eyes narrowed. The tourists, now fully engrossed, record every second, their videos destined to spread across the globe. Emily stands like a statue, her resolve a fortress. She knows the stakes not just for herself, but for the institution she represents. To comply would be to bend the spine of Britain's pride, to suggest that tradition can be swayed by external pressure. To refuse is to risk offense, to invite criticism, to stand alone against the expectations of a powerful man. 1 minute passes, then two, each second stretching into eternity. The crowd watches, mesmerized by her stillness, her silence a louder statement than any words. Moros aides murmur, urging him to step back, but his pride, like a fire, burns hotter. He takes a step closer, his shadow falling over Emily, his voice dropping to a menacing growl. "You will regret this, Guard." Yet Emily does not flinch, her eyes fixed on the horizon, her body a testament to the strength of principle over power. The standoff is broken by the measured steps of a British officer. Captain Alistair Reed, a 40-year-old veteran with a reputation for diplomacy under pressure. Reed approaches, his uniform impeccable, his expression calm but resolute. He addresses Moros with a polite but firm tone, his voice carrying across the silent forecourt. "General, with respect, the Royal Guard salutes only the British royal family, or those designated by royal command. This is our tradition, as I'm sure you understand the importance of your own." The words are a bridge, an attempt to diffuse without dishonor. But they also draw a line, a clear assertion of Britain's sovereignty. Moro's eyes flicker, his anger warring with the need to maintain composure before an international audience. The diplomats lean in, Their faces a mix of relief and curiosity, as Reed's words hang in the air. What happens next is nothing short of extraordinary. Moroz, his face a mask of conflicting emotions, steps back. For a moment, he stands in silence, his chest rising and falling, his aides watching in stunned anticipation. Then, to the astonishment of all, he inclines his head, a subtle but unmistakable gesture of apology. The act is not grand, not theatrical, but it is profound. A rare admission of error from a man whose culture prizes dominance. The crowd exhales, a collective release of tension. As the band resumes its march, the parade moving forward, as if nothing had happened. The diplomats murmur, some nodding in approval, others whispering about the guards' courage. The tourists erupt in quiet applause, their phones still recording. Their respect for Emily, palpable. Behind the scenes, the impact of Emily's stand reverberates. The British officers, gathered in a private room after the parade, speak of her with quiet pride. She held the line, one says, his voice thick with respect, not just for us, but for every guard who's ever stood that post. The head of the parade, a colonel with decades of service, makes a note in his report, commending Emily for her adherence to protocol under pressure. The diplomats, in their evening receptions, recount the story, framing it as a lesson in cultural respect. The Eastern European delegation, initially bristling, softens, their aides admitting privately that Moroz's demand was a misstep, a misunderstanding of British customs. Moroz himself, in a rare moment of reflection, sends a formal letter to the British embassy, expressing regret for the incident and admiration for the guards' discipline. Emily, unaware of the ripples she has caused, returns to her duties, her life a rhythm of drills, patrols, and quiet moments in the barracks. She is not one for fanfare. Her pride rooted in the knowledge that she did her duty, nothing more. Her comrades, aware of the incident, offer nods of respect, their silence louder than words. Her commanding officer, in a brief meeting, acknowledges her resolve. His words simple but sincere. You upheld our honor. Clark, well done. Emily nods, her face impassive. But inside, she feels a warmth, a confirmation that her choice was right. She thinks of her days as a history teacher, of the lessons she taught about courage and principle, and knows she has lived them in a way few ever will. The story spreads, as such stories do. A tourist's video goes viral. The clip of Emily's refusal and Moroz's apology shared across continents. News outlets pick up the tale, framing it as a moment of cultural clash and quiet triumph. Commentators debate the nuances, diplomacy versus duty, tradition versus adaptation, but the consensus is clear. Emily Clark, in her stillness, spoke volumes. The palace, with its golden gates and ancient stones, stands as a silent witness, its honor upheld by a single guard who refused to bend. The incident becomes a teaching moment in diplomatic circles, a case study in the importance of understanding cultural differences, of respecting the traditions that define a nation. Emily's life continues, her role unchanged, but her legacy quietly growing. She trains new recruits, her voice steady as she explains the rules that govern their service. She visits schools on outreach programs, her stories of the Guard inspiring children to dream of duty. She writes letters to her parents, her words humble, never mentioning the parade, but focusing on the small joys of her day. Yet those who know her story see her differently. A woman who, in a moment of pressure, chose principle over expediency, who reminded the world that respect is earned through understanding, not demanded through force. The lesson of that day is profound. A reminder that true strength lies not in bending others to your will, but in standing firm for what is right. It is a call to honor the traditions that shape us, to respect the differences that define us, to recognize that diplomacy is not about dominance, but about dialogue. Emily Clark, with her quiet defiance, became a beacon, a symbol of the courage it takes to hold fast in the face of expectation. Her stand was not just for Britain, but for anyone who has ever faced a choice between compromise and conviction, between the easy path and the right one. In our modern world, where pressure and compromise often walk hand in hand, would you have the courage to stand your ground, as Emily did? Would you hold fast to your principles, even when the world demands you bend? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us about a time when you faced a choice, when you stood for something greater than yourself, when you learned what honor truly means. If you're inspired by stories like Emily's stories of resilience, duty, and the quiet victories that shape our world, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Join us as we uncover more tales from every corner of the globe. Stories that remind us of the strength within us all. Every single day,